Hi, I'm Kaylee, and this is my wrap up for all the books that I read in October. The big focus of October is, of course, the Victober Readathon, and I read quite a few Victorian classics. Before we dive into all the books that I read in October, I'm going to reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout book, and we're going to shout out somebody randomly. Today's shout out goes to Anita Reads. I'll leave a link to their channel down in the description. Be sure to go over and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel. Give this video a big thumbs up. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Goodreads. The read-along book for Victober was The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. And I've already done a separate video about all of my thoughts reviewing The Mayor of Casterbridge. And another challenge was to read a book and then watch the screen adaptation. So I ended up watching the screen adaptation of The Mayor of Casterbridge. I didn't really care for the screen adaptation that much. I just didn't connect with any of the characters. The actors did a great job, but somehow, I don't know, maybe because I had just read the book and the story was already fresh in my mind, and then seeing it on screen, there was no suspense. I don't know. The acting was good, but I didn't like the cinematography. Everything just seemed sort of bland. And I don't think they did a very good job of showing the passage of time in the movie. Like, the book takes up quite a long time. It's like years and years and years. And some of the things that happen in the movie, it seemed like 2 weeks later, when actually it's 2 years later. So I wasn't that impressed with the screen adaptation. Another one of the Victober challenges was to read a coming of age story and to read a story about someone with a chronic illness or disability. So I combined these two challenges together and I read Olive. I've already done another extensive review of Olive, so go over and watch that video if you want to know what I thought of Olive. Another challenge was to read some Victorian short stories, and I read the Round the Fire stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This was perfect to read in October because they're really creepy and thrilling and scary. So I really enjoyed reading those to get me in that creepy, spooky sort of mood for Halloween. And another challenge was to read some Victorian poetry, and so I read Sir Walter Scott's The Lady of the Lake. I really enjoyed that, and I've done another review of that in a different video, so go over and watch that one as well. So I got done all the challenges that I wanted to do for Victober, and I got some really great reading done and enjoyed it so much. So now let's dive into all the rest of the reading that I did in October. Including the 4 Victorian classics that I read 43 books total. So 4 of those were classics. I read 27 children's picture books, 2 children's chapter books, 3 middle grade, 5 nonfiction, and 2 graphic novels. So the 2 graphic novels that I read were actually more like children's graphic novels. I read Beneath the Trees a Fine Summer and Cats, Cats, Cats. The Cats one has no dialogue whatsoever, which I thought was really fun. The nonfiction that I read was The Marvelous Body, Hide and Seek History, Ancient Egyptians, Children of the World, and Ornamentation, a Question and Answer Manual. I have some of my advanced piano students, and so they're getting into grace notes and trills and a lot of ornamentation, and they have a lot of questions. How do we do this? And so I thought, you know what, let's just buy a book that gives very clear instructions and lots of examples so that it'll help me to explain to them, how do you play this trill? So I'm finding that really useful in my teaching. And I also read Knowing God by J.I. Packer. This book examines the attributes of God and how we can know God in a truly personal way. I really like that it begins by outlining the type of attitudes that we need to have in order to kind of go on this journey to find the truth about God. You need to approach it with humility. You need to approach it and let go of your own preconceived ideas, but just accept what God says and what he reveals about himself. And then the second part of the book focuses on the attributes of God, his triune nature, his majesty and wisdom and love and grace and judgment, his goodness and truth. And then the last part of the book applies all those things to our lives. How can we lead a life knowing what we now know about how God is and how he operates and what he expects of us. I just loved it. It took me about 3 months to read through this a little bit at a time because I just wanted to take my time and then kind of stop and think about what I had just read in that last passage and apply it to my life. Whenever I read these type of really deeply spiritual books, I just take a long time to read them and just kind of digest everything that I'm reading. I gave Knowing God 5 stars. The 2 children's chapter books that I read were ones that I reread every once in a while, that are ones that I read when I was a little girl. It's The New Through the Green Gate and The New Down the River Road. This is part of the Alice and Jerry books. I loved reading these when I was a little girl, and it's so nostalgic and fun to go back to these. This is the kind of book that I pick up when I'm upset or when I have insomnia or something, and I just want something that is sweet and fun and that reminds me of happy times in my childhood. I still love these stories as an adult, and I gave both of these 5 stars. Adorable. And I also read some middle grade books. I read Loki, A Bad God's Guide to Being Good. So Loki has gotten into trouble with all of his hijinks, and Odin is mad at him, and Odin curses him to live on Earth and disguises him in the body of a 7th grade boy. And he sends Thor and Heimdall along to keep an eye on Loki. Loki has 30 days to learn to be good, or then Thor will send him into eternal punishment. Thor and Loki go to school together, and they have to dodge the sneaky frost giants. And of course, Loki tries all the wrong ways to be good. So this is the beginning of a series, and I just received the 2nd book in the series that I'm going to be reading this next month to continue reading some of these. These are fun. The next one that I read was Brand New Boy. So these children in school are intrigued when a new boy comes to school. They can't quite figure out, is he shy? Is he on the autism spectrum? Does he have some sort of developmental disorder? They reach out to befriend him, and he's just kind of odd. But the kids figure, well, we're all sort of weird in our own ways, so it's okay if he's weird too. We can still be friends. But they begin to speculate. Could the new boy be an alien? Could he be a robot? We don't know. I really loved this book. All the characters have beautifully complex personalities. The kids are very thoughtful, and they're just so relatable. And I really loved the teachers in their school. They're so dynamic. You can really tell that they're passionate about their subject. And of course, I loved the music teacher in this book because I'm a music teacher, so I loved that part. The writing style is very pensive. The children are pondering the big questions of life. And that sort of makes the plot a little bit slow, but it feels right for this type of story. We take the time to analyze what these children value in the world. And then the plot is pushed forward because of their values. Even though the plot is slow, it doesn't feel like it drags. It feels restful, and the pacing feels right for this type of story. I gave it 4.5 stars. I also read the undercover book list. Jane has the idea to leave a secret note in her favorite book in the school library to start the undercover book club, and any child that finds the note, then they can write secret notes back to and forth to each other, anonymous notes, and they can recommend books to each other, and it'll be their secret anonymous undercover book club. Tyson is always in trouble at school. He's always playing pranks and ending up in the principal's office, and he sees Jane leave a note in the library, and he decides that he's going to also join the undercover book club. But can these total opposites really become friends? I really loved the characters of Jane and Tyson. They are total opposites, but you begin to see how they actually do have things in common. Jane is a complete nerd. She's bookish and sweet and adorable. And Tyson is a slacker who feels like there's no point in even trying or putting in any effort because everybody just expects him to fail anyway. And so then he lives up to those low expectations, even though he's capable of doing better. I loved his character development. I just loved Tyson. He just had to find the courage to break out of those labels and become his true self. The writing style is wonderful, but it kind of has an odd structure. We get a chapter from Jane and then a chapter from Tyson and a chapter from Jane and a chapter from Tyson. Fine, we have multiple POVs, but they're separated out into separate chapters, and that is great. They both have distinct voices, and so I really liked seeing the story from their different perspectives. But Jane's chapters are told in the first person, and Tyson's chapters are told in third person omniscient. So I don't know what to do with that. Half the book is in first person, half the book is in third person. I don't know what's happening. I didn't really mind the changes in style. I mean, I guess it was fine. I thought it was a pretty bold choice. And I'm kept wondering, like, why did the author choose to do that? Like, was there some point for that narrative structure, like some reason why it had to be told that way? And there's no reason that I can tell. It just seems really unnecessary and weird. But I mean, I guess it works, so it's fine. I really loved all the positive themes in this book. It's very hopeful and inspiring. But of course, the best part of this book is the books. Half the story takes place in the library. And the characters are preparing for a kid lit quiz. And so they are studying all of their bookish trivia. And there's even a list at the back of the book showing all the books that are mentioned in this book, all the books that the characters read, so that you could actually join the undercover book club and you could read all the same books as well. I gave this book 4 stars. And those are the books that I read in October. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was some of your favorite reading that you've done this past month. What are some of your favorite classics for Victober that you may have been reading? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.